Sprout Up Farmers!
Hi everyone! Today we are happy but also a little bit sad because this is the last stop on our journey here at White Feather Farm.
Yeah, we've been exploring the farm through winter, through spring, now we're in summer, and we've been watching the food on the farm as it grows to feed the surrounding community.
Yeah, and as the farm transitions through summer and we move towards winter, there's always going to be stuff happening at the farm, but there are a few important lessons that we can take away from farmers when we're thinking about the end of the growing season here at White Feather Farm.
So let's end this series right where we started it, which is thinking about how farms are important to us.
Sprout Up Farmers, do you remember what tiny plant part we started with all the way back in our first video? Yeah, a seed!
Seeds, as we know, are super important to farmers because it's how they grow a lot of their food.
If you remember, we talked about how seeds are the beginning and the end of a plant's life cycle.
And each seed holds the material for a whole new plant to grow.
As we got to journey through the seasons at White Feather Farm, we saw so many of those different seeds grow up into adult plants that feed us and the environment. Lots of farmers also save seeds from crops each year, and this is called seed saving.
Yeah, farmers can collect, dry, and store seeds so that they can plant them next year.
And saving seeds from the same farm over and over each year actually makes it so that the next generation of plants and fruits and vegetables that grow from those seeds is better suited to that place and that farm and the weather of that place and the environment as well.
Totally. And saving seeds can also help farmers save money because they don't have to go out and buy seeds the next year. Seed saving is also super important for farmers because it means that they can grow more of whatever varieties they like best. So maybe next year they want to have more purple carrots or bigger apples, and so they'll save the seeds from those fruits and vegetables that they like best.
Yeah, totally. And seed saving and seeds in general are super important beyond just the uses for farms and for people as food, because lots of animals and things in nature also rely on seeds to survive.
So Artichoke, what else can farmers do this time of year?
Well, Mushroom, maybe let's check in with Farmer Dallas and see what kinds of things happen here at White Feather Farm during the colder months of the year.
Everything is seasonal. There are things that we can grow in greenhouses, like microgreens. So we're going to shift our production to a few things. We're going to have microgreens that grow in the greenhouse. We'll have spinach that will grow in the outdoor hoop houses. And the spinach is one thing that grows really well in the wintertime. We don't have heaters that we can use for the hoop houses. But spinach is a special vegetable leafy green that has the ability to protect itself from the cold. They produce their own natural antifreeze, which is sugar. And just like a popsicle that you put in the freezer, you can still bite into it, or ice cream, you can still bite into it because that sugar keeps it from freezing. And that's why spinach tastes the best in the winter. It's the sweetest.
That's so cool.
Yeah. We don't have the space to have a lot of different varieties of things, so we're just going to simplify it to spinach, microgreens, maple syrup, which is another one that we do in February, March, and eggs, chickens.
The last thing that we're going to do today is check out the Three Sisters garden behind us at White Feather Farm.
And look at how big it's gotten.
You can see that there are these little tiny bean tendrils growing up the tall stalk of the corn. And the squash vines out away from the corn and the beans and covers up the soil to help it keep the moisture as long as possible.
This small ecosystem of plants is just one unique relationship within this larger network of plant and animal relationships at White Feather Farm. Think of all of the wildlife that this area and this farm can support.
Indigenous knowledge and practices of all of these natural relationships is the foundation for a lot of the farming practices used here at White Feather Farm.
So, these Three Sisters crops, along with so many other things from this forest, would have also supported Indigenous people and still do today through the winter months.
Yeah, so the corn behind us can be harvested, can be stored and processed, and it can be turned into all kinds of different dishes, whether eaten now or stored for later. So you can grind down the corn into cornmeal, you can make corn flour, and you can use that to support your community's food needs throughout the winter, well beyond the growing season.
Yeah, and lots of the tools that have been used to process the corn and other plants in a farm or in a garden would have probably been made from a forest like this native forest around us, and things like bark and twigs and trees that are used to make those tools that can process the corn for the winter months.
Which is super different from how big farms process food. Think of a farm and a tractor.
Yeah, and lots of other big machinery. And so those small tools are better for the environment and the place and the surrounding living things.
So that is why growing food on smaller scale farms and collaborating with local communities and their traditional knowledge is usually better for the world.
Yeah, and we can learn so much more from local indigenous traditions and practices and the ways that people just care for and nurture the land and have for centuries upon centuries. And it's so important to thank those communities for teaching us so much about farming, and also acknowledge that small farms like White Feather borrow from a lot of those traditions and practices as well.
And remember, we are all connected to farms in one way or another, whether they provide us with food or medicine or music or culture. They all connect us. So farms might look different wherever you're located, but we're all connected by one thing. We all rely on farms for survival.
So together, let's thank White Feather Farm for teaching us about where our food comes from and the stories of the land that we're living on.
And thank you so much to each of our guests from each of our videos for sharing their knowledge with us.
And we hope you have a really fun time completing the final Second Nature activity sheet for this video series.
We hope to see you on the farm one day.
Bye!